yourself.
You're a asshole, so I'm not going to buy your book. How's that?
I'm glad you're here.
Welcome to Creative Ops, a podcast for creative people.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Creative Ops, a podcast for creative people. I am creative person Christopher Talon. I do all the music for the show, except for the one song at the end that was done by Kirk Ross, same guy that designed my book cover. Hey, wait a second. I'm getting way off topic. My guest today is Jennifer Soucy, and she didn't edit my book per se, but she definitely gave me helpful editor-style notes on it earlier in the run of it. And we talk about that and a few other things. But first, before we get into all that, let me real quick talk to you about my book, just to give you some context for what we're talking about here. I'll read straight off the back of the book. Switchers. It started on the last day of school in a version of 1996 that most of us don't remember. Kurt and his friends Andy, Bertie, and Dylan are starting summer break by an abandoned farmhouse behind a 7-Eleven. A run-in with some bullies ends the night in terror for everyone involved. The next morning, Kurt wakes up to complete chaos in what is the beginning of a journey of both distance and time no one could have imagined. Kurt and his friends travel time, switching bodies with their adult selves in the process, learning about each other, figuring out who they can trust, and hoping they find a way home before they get stuck in a future with little hope of survival. Permanently. Alright, so you're going to hear from Jennifer Soucy very shortly, and we're going to be talking about the great notes that she gave me, all the support that she gives with notes, but also she gave me help trying to get published. She introduced me to TJ Tranchell, who edited my book. And I also should mention too, before we get into the interview does contain spoilers from the 1994 movie The Air Up There with Kevin Bacon. So, all right, folks. In the spirit of It Takes a Village to Raise a Child, all these people that I've been interviewing lately with the book release stuff around the title have been huge in getting this book out, and not just getting it out, but making it look good. So thank you to all of them. Thank you to you, Jennifer Soucy. Folks, get ready. We're going to talk about some books in here, too. She was in a space anthology through Silver Shamrock that you should check out. She's got a book called The Mother We Share, The Night She Fell, Demon in Me, Clementine's Awakening, and we talk about TJ's books, Tell No Man, and Shawn Burgess' book, The Tear Collector. All great authors and people you should check out in the show notes, blah, 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 blah. So, here it is with Jennifer Soucy. Kind of a celebration of my book. Yay.
Yay.
I'm worried that people will read this and be like, he's a science fiction author, because this is really the only project I've written outside of maybe one or two other short stories ever that was sci-fi. So I don't consider myself sci-fi. I consider myself PG horror and fantasy kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what do you think about not being super niche? Because another podcast I was on, they said, that's great that you've got this idea with your book and your promotion, but it's so wide, your idea of who's going to read it and the genres that you play with, that I'm just worried that you're going to have a hard time finding a home for it.
Well, I mean, that's always a risk. A lot of my books, for instance, they combine multiple genre elements.
And
they're all dark
for adults, definitely books that have violence, romantic scenes, things that would definitely make it an R movie.
Yeah.
My daughter really wants to read. I was telling her about The Mother We Share, and she's like, "Oh, can I read that?" But I had the electronic copy of it, so I got to get her the physical copy of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, you just write genre and all that stuff is for selling basically. Like you're
Mhm.
finding your target audience and letting them know, hey, you might like this book. But as far as the writing part, you've got to write just what makes sense to you, what makes sense to the story you're creating, and
Yeah.
worry about where it fits later. Because you don't want to muddle your brain while you're creating with, should I swing this way? Should I swing that way? Get the story down that you want. Then afterwards be like, well, it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I went through that myself with the Night She Fell series
Mm.
because, yes, it's partly there is a paranormal romance. And so it is a little steamy. But at the same time, it's definitely horror at the same time. And there's some fantasy elements too. So it's like, who do you market to? I don't know. So I just marketed it to everybody, like in those groups, because what else are you supposed to do? Because if you really feel there's something for everyone, you want to announce that.
Yeah.
But don't worry about being pigeonholed because so many genres, almost every genre subject, at one point or another, it has interwoven into a story. Like there's so many sci-fi fantasies, there's so
Mm.
many sci-fi horrors, there's so many whatevers, because they all have an intersect in
Yeah,
those
wasn't there just
genres.
the anthology that was all like sci-fi horror in space
Yeah,
anthology?
that was the one I was in
Yeah.
Silver Shamrock.
Yeah.
And a lot of I read it and I mean, not to toot all of our horns, but it was really good. But the thing that was good about it too was not all of it like you think, oh, it's all going to be in space, like spaceships, astronaut. No, it was sci-fi horror and there was a lot of different ways that those 31 authors I think interpreted that. So there was a lot of variety.
Yeah.
So if you like sci-fi and horror, but maybe you like this trope or that trope, but still there's going to be something for you no
Yeah.
matter what, as long as you like both of those things.
Yeah. People would say, "Oh, all that many variations on the same theme, that's going to get boring." But I mean, it's really not, it's because it's
Hmm.
almost like songwriting or painting. You could give somebody an idea, but no two things are going to look or sound or read exactly the same.
Exactly.
I want to talk about beta reading, beta readers, both,
Hmm.
because I had several people who gave me really good notes on the book and things that I should fix and change. But of all of them, I don't know if I would say you gave the best advice. You probably did, but you also did it like in the most just direct and simple way. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of people are afraid to do that, especially people that don't really know what beta readers are supposed to do, or even if they do, they're afraid of hurting a fragile artist's spirit. You know what I mean?
Right. Which that is a risk. As an editor, I can tell you, artists are very fragile.
Mm,
But at the same time, it's like, do you want this book to be the absolute best it can be? Because if you do, then you've got to hear the constructive criticism.
yeah,
Because it's criticism, yes, but it's intended to help. It's not coming from a bad place. You
yeah,
know, when people give me constructive criticism, I'm like, thank you. That's like the best gift you
yes,
can give me.
yes. I was talking to a guy who's not a writer, but he does visual art, like graphic art. Um, and he said we were talking about the same thing. It's just so frustrating when someone's like, "Yeah, that's good,"
Hmm.
and that's all they say.
Right. Oh, I love your stories. They're awesome.
Yeah,
They're
or I think,
great. They're all perfect.
yeah, I think my dad might have like looked at my book, kind of like flipped through it a little bit. He goes, "Looks like a real book." Like that was his whole thing. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, give me like real feedback,
Yeah,
if you can. And don't be afraid of hurting my feelings. My boyfriend's read most of my books against his will because he likes he likes horror, but he's like romance. Oh, it's stupid. I hate it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So but so he'll read it and he'll be like, okay, well, do you think that, maybe that's the best way or whatever? And sometimes I don't think he necessarily gets it. So I'm like, ah, whatever. I don't think you get it. But sometimes he will say something that, as an outsider of whatever, it is astute and it's helpful. So I'm like, thank you for sharing that with me and not
Yeah.
being afraid that I was just going to crumble into tears because I'm not. I just, if I give it to you to read beforehand, I'm looking for your honest opinion because that will help me.
When you have something and you're giving it to people for a beta read,
Hmm.
do you have like a set checklist? Do you have a conversation? Do you send everybody the same thing? This is what I'm looking for. This is when I need it by. Or do you kind of just throw it out there loosey goosey and see what you get back?
Yes, all of that. Well, there's because when you give someone something for a beta read, like for me,
Hmm.
every people say very quickly, yes, I'll do it, yes.
Hmm.
But realistically, especially if you're sending it out to your writer friends who have, what they have to do. They write every day, or maybe they edit, and they also have other jobs and maybe families. So they got a lot going on. So
We're
if they
talking about me, by the way. She sent me a book, and then I was like,
Yeah, I read like half of it. Sorry, shit.
but I mean, things happen, but you don't want people to feel like you're putting them under pressure
yeah,
because that could sour the relationship. So you put it out there with the hope that they'll read it and assure them, hey, if you get to it, you get to it. If you don't, you don't. If you do read it, if you have time, how do you feel about the characters? How did you feel about the plot twist? Was the foreshadowing good?
mm,
Maybe like 5 or 6 little things that's what you want the audience perspective on, right?
yeah,
I don't need you to tell me if my comma is correct
yeah, right,
because we'll figure that out later. But did
yeah,
you like the character? Even if you didn't like the character, why didn't you like the character? Or
yeah,
even if you hated them, did you hate them in the good way? Like, I hate you, but I love you because I want to see what happens to you.
hmm,
So things like that are helpful. It's like when they do early releases for movies, and
yeah,
because
yeah,
they want to get the audience perspective. Well, they clapped here and they did nothing there, or they booed here, or someone fell asleep over here. I saw them in the
yeah.
seat, you know.
We got to cut this joke. Nobody laughed.
Right? Nobody laughed. They all just stared at the screen. So
Yeah,
that's what you're looking for.
hmm,
And then the rest of it, like the actual editing, all that, that's the easy part. It's whether the story works and the
yeah,
characters work.
yeah. Once
That's
you got a book that's you know done for the sake of just writing a beginning, middle, and end,
hmm
like you said, the rest of it, it's not that it's easy, but it kind of falls into place.
yeah,
It's easier than trying to come up with fresh ideas.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I'm really glad that you introduced me to TJ for editing, which, by the way, I don't know if I told you, but I did thank you in the back of the book specifically for your support and for introducing me to TJ.
Oh, yay, thank you. Yeah, I still have to read the final copy. It's been crazy right now with stuff,
Well, you've
so
already read like 15 other copies of it, so it's
I've read like 15 other copies.
don't worry about it. But yeah, I wrote
It's an
thanks to
awesome
so and so and
story.
so and so and Jennifer Soucy for your notes and for introducing me to TJ.
Yay. Well, I mean, I know he does a good job with stuff like that. I mean, his books always come out great. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I read Tell No Man after you introduced me to the idea of hiring him for that. And immediately, I think I read it in like 2 sittings and was just like, yeah, I'll take this guy if he's available.
but did you read the first book in that?
No.
Oh my God, you've got to read it
That's
because then,
Cry Down Darkness. Is that it?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Oh my God, because I read that first because he hadn't released Tell No Man yet.
Hmm.
But yeah, and then when I read that, there's some stuff because it's a shared universe.
Yeah.
But there was some stuff, and I was like, oh my God, I need more. I need more from this little Utah town, please.
Yeah. How did you meet him?
Well, Demon and me and Tell No Man were signed up at the same publisher, but then the publisher went under. So we were like that first round of releases that were going to come out, but we never were released. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
like in the meantime, as each and we met after I got signed first, and then he got signed. So then we met each other, and we've been friends ever since and supporting each other. So
Yeah. He's a good dude. And did
He
you
is.
hear about the novelization of the classic American movie that he's doing?
No.
He said it on my podcast, so I'm sure it's okay for me to share it now. But he's been commissioned to write a novelization of Footloose.
Oh
They wanted a
my
Utah writer, so
God.
they got him.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
I know, right?
And Footloose is it's fucking Footloose.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
my
not his
God.
normal jam, but I'm sure he'll do amazing with it.
He will do amazing. And
Yeah.
I mean, I just love that story. I mean, who doesn't?
I just want
From
to dance.
right. Just let me dance. I'll go to jail so I can dance.
Yeah. You can't even say the word Footloose without hearing
Yeah. And just strange, solo dance montages. I'm angry. I'm gonna dance it out through an empty factory.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God, just dancing through the factory
Yeah.
and getting kicked and jumping off the platforms. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God, I love that movie. That was like one of my favorite movies as a kid.
Kevin
I think
Bacon
I
and
even
his
saw it in the
gigantic hair.
theater. Yes, the bacon. Who doesn't love him?
He's like a very unique looking, not classically beautiful man, but just something about him. You can't stop
Hmm.
looking at him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And he's so fabulous in every movie he's in. He's always great. Even if the movie sucks, he's
Even if
great.
the movie is silly, kind of like The Air Up There. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, I don't remember much of it though.
He was a assistant basketball coach who was trying to get the head coaching job,
That's
and
right.
he had to get this power forward from this African tribe. So he had to go to Africa, convince
Hmm.
this kid to come play, and then end up joining their tribe and beating a different team in Africa. And then he gets the spoiler. Then he gets the job, and the kid comes.
Nice.
It's a silly, silly movie. And Kevin Bacon doesn't look like a Division I all-star basketball player, but it was good. I liked it.
Right. And he would sell it even if he doesn't look the part. He
Yeah.
would sell it because he's an awesome actor.
Yeah, it was just one of those silly 90s movies that they cranked out left and right when everybody was doing cocaine, I think. But
Yeah.
yeah.
The 90s,
Yeah.
the good old days.
So this is your third time being on the show. Congratulations for that.
Yay, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Talk about some of the stuff that you've done since. I'm trying to remember, what were you even promoting the last time you were on?
I think probably Clementine's Awakening.
Okay, yeah. So you've had several things come out since then, right? Because you write like a
Yes.
book a week.
Well, I have been. I've slowed down a bit. These past few months have been just a nightmare, but I am getting back in the swing of things. But yeah, so I had Clementine's Awakening come out, and then I had Dead in the Water come out, which I don't know if you read it yet, but
I haven't.
oh, I love this story. But it's three sisters, three middle-aged sisters, and they have to gather back in Provincetown in Massachusetts because their grandmother who raised them passed away in a very strange manner. She like walked into the ocean and she was catatonic, and then she was not, and she just got up and walked into the ocean and disappeared. So they have to gather, and they're triplets, and they have that shared birth rivalry. I say this as the older sister to two twins.
Yeah.
They fight all the time. So it's like a twin thing. I don't know why. They love each other. They try to kill each other. I don't know. It's a thing. But so these triplets get back together, and at their reunion they realize that there's more going on as they start learning more of their family history. And someone who had kind of been following them for most of their lives makes a not very welcome reappearance. So there's Irish folklore, there's horror, there's fantasy, a whole bunch of stuff.
You're so good at making things seem super, like somebody that would read just the first few pages of one of your books would be like, oh, okay, this is going to be like some realistic literary fiction. And then it just slowly like kind of turns into a nightmare. Like,
Yeah.
I really love that style where you're not even sure what's happening until it's happening, as far as just like the tone starts to just get darker and weirder and darker and weirder.
I love dark and weird. I mean, that's been me my whole life, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I love stuff like that. I love when you're not quite 100% like you think you know where a story or where a movie or wherever where you know where it's going, and then it's not. And you're like, how did we end up here? What's going on? What's going to happen next? You know? I like that too, even when I'm writing. Like
Yeah.
I kind of know I have a general idea of what's going to happen.
Hmm.
But you know as well as anyone, I mean, as well as any writer, you think you know what's going to happen, and then you get to some place, and all of a sudden one of your characters is like, "Hey, I'm going to do this," and you're like, "No, stop!" And then you're like, "Wow, do it, do it."
Yeah. Or I was just talking about this too. You go, no, 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 I got to do the thing that I said I was going to do. And then you end up going back and go, hey, I got to just throw all that away and start that part over
Right?
again.
It's all garbage.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how the people who are very, very strict plotters can do it. And that's not
Mm,
a knock to them because, I
right.
don't want them knocking me either. We all get it done. But
Hmm.
I'm too, I guess, neurodivergent maybe
Well,
to
maybe. I
stick to
mean,
that one path the whole time.
I respect anyone who can stick like to an outline and all that. And
Yeah.
everyone's brain works differently, so that's awesome if it works for them. But
Hmm.
for me, there's always been, again with any art, but with writing, it feels there's something mystical. Like when you're in the process of doing it, like I hate to make it sound all mysterious to people who don't write, but there is like it's like you get into a trance and you kind of feel like something's happening, but you don't know what you're, and at parts you feel like you're almost along for the ride to
Yes.
something else that's happening. So I don't like to get in the way of that as much as possible. Like I don't go in with no plan. I'm not like a total fly by the seat of my pants, just let whatever happens happen. But I do let myself be open to the possibility that something might change because there might be a very good reason that I'm feeling this nudge here or there.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just superstitious because I am, but when you feel nudges like that, there I to me there's got to be something, like there's meaning behind that.
Yeah. I don't know if you're superstitious, but you're definitely a little stitious.
A little stitious, yeah. Thanks,
No,
Michael.
no, but I was just talking to Brandon Scott, and he was saying the
Mhm.
same thing that he had recently just written a story, and he said it almost felt like a Ouija board, like the way it just started, like
Yeah.
he wasn't even thinking about his hand. It was just
Hmm.
happening.
Yeah, I mean, and then you'll be, you'll get into a zone and you'll look down and you'll be like, "Wait, it's midnight?"
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. He's
I,
like, I just wrote 4,400 words in one. Wow.
where was I? What
Yeah.
happened? Was I here still? I don't remember.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like stuff like that happens, and I think most of your writing, I feel like for myself, most of my writing happens in my subconscious. So the best thing I can do is get out of its way
Mm,
and let whatever has been brewing and connecting down there, let it just go free. Which is a lot of times why I listen to music when I'm
yeah.
writing. Like a lot of people can't do that, which again is fine, everyone has their way. But when I listen to music, it distracts the thinking operating part of my brain
Yeah.
and helps that subconscious just kind of sneak out.
Yeah. It distracts the monkey with the cymbals.
Yeah. Yeah, like, hey, listen to this, you love this song, and then I'm
Yeah.
like
Oh man. What tips do you have for a handsome fellow like me who does not have, any audience whatsoever trying to push their first book out?
Well, I mean, I think you've got more of an audience than you realize. Like you've been doing really good on Twitter, asking your questions and
Yeah.
making connections with people.
I just don't know if that's going to connect into buys or not. You know what I mean?
It's really hard to say. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not that great at it myself because it's when you're connecting with social media, it's a very risky. It can be profitable, but it's also very risky. Like it's very likely that whatever ad you create or whatever video you do is going to be just a total waste of time. But there might be some that you make that are awesome that just click with somebody and go somewhat viral.
Yeah.
I've been using TikTok and some of the reels on Instagram because I know a lot of people like the reels.
Hmm.
Has it translated to sales? I don't know. I don't think so, but I mean, at least you're putting yourself out there. And a lot of people I know, they do Amazon ads. I've tried to do that, and I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying I don't know how to make it work. Like
Yeah.
I know there's ways to make it work, and there's like all sorts of tutorials on YouTube and this and that.
That, and somebody else said that those you can get like little book ad pop-ups made on BookBub or something like that. So
You
it'll pop
can.
up and it'll say things like, if you can program it to be like, if somebody reads, just throwing a name out there, John Grisham, and you think that they might like you, then that'll pop up when they're looking up John Grisham or whatever. I'm not really sure how it works exactly.
Right. I mean, there's all sorts of algorithms and stuff, and you've got to use the right keywords, and you've got to put the right amount of money onto each like bid, so that way there's a greater chance that you're it's all very confusing to me. I don't get it. Like
Yeah.
I know I should get it and I should try to get it, but it's very hard. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So all
That's
I
why I
do,
like it when somebody's like, I have this exact strategy. I just do this, this, this. I'm just like, copy and pasting that.
right, right. I mean, I think the best thing you can do is just keep making your name heard out there in some way and keep networking with because other authors, especially ones that are, actually do have an audience,
Yeah.
if you connect with them and like you swap books or whatever, that's a great way to get exposure because they read your book, you read theirs, you each write a review, and then boom, they, all the people who follow them are like, hey, this person I love just read this book and liked it. So maybe I'll like it too, you
That,
know?
that's interesting because I was thinking about that earlier too. The line between connecting with other writers and then connecting with readers, because like, somebody had pointed out early when I got into Twitter, like, don't do too many of those writers lifts, because then all you're going to have for followers are other people who are also trying to sell books. You need to try to reach out to to some non-writers too.
And that's a good point too. I mean, one of the things about Twitter, like in my experience, again, I'm not saying that I know everything because I surely don't, but
You got
a
more
lot,
followers than me. That's the name of the game.
but I don't think they're real people, most of them, so they don't count. I'm
Yeah.
waiting on Elon Musk to swipe the bots out, so
Yeah, right.
then I'll know who I really have. But but no, like yeah, if you have all writer friends, yeah, that's going to be a problem because writers, I mean, when you're friends with people, you do try to buy everyone's book. You
Yeah.
really do. But if all of your friends are writers, obviously all of us have a limit, pocketbook and time wise.
Yeah.
So you can't always do everything. So it's not necessarily the ideal, Plus they're so easy to sell to like other writers because they want to support you, they want you to support them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to buy and read your book. At the best, they'll help you promote it. They'll share your tweet or they'll do this or that, and that's great. But I don't think Twitter's the place necessarily to sell books because again, you're just selling to people just like you.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you, I don't know, find some way to tap into some, I don't know, some reader group there that's active. But I don't know that a lot of reader groups are, I mean, unless I'm missing them, are active on Twitter. But now, things like Bookstagram on Instagram, that's a very active reading community. But of course, the thing is, people don't want to get spammed with buy my book.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. Do you want to get spammed with buy my book? Of course not. You go
Unless
on
it's
social,
incredibly creative and well done. But yeah,
right,
most of the time it's not. Yeah.
right. But you don't want to go on to like your social media platform of choice and just see a bunch of ads,
Buy this, buy
or,
this, read this, buy
buy
this,
this,
read
buy
this.
this, please. You want to go see funny, quirky, delightful little comments and interactions with people
Yeah.
you like. So
Yeah.
I would say just keep doing your podcast, keep doing like comments and questions and interacting and worry more about that building your online persona
Yeah.
than selling, because if people like you, they're going to be like, oh, he has a book too. Maybe I should read it because I think he's cool or I think he's funny. So I'll probably like his book.
Well, I should do just fine then, because I actually have this this song that I wrote about myself. Do you want to hear it? I sing it
Yes.
sometimes whenever I
Yes.
make new friends. I make friends everywhere I go, everywhere I go, everywhere I go. I make friends everywhere I go because everybody thinks I'm cool.
Yay!
And I do. Whenever I make a new friend that I'm excited about, I start singing that song, and my wife's like, "Oh, you made a new friend today?"
See, you need to make a TikTok about that.
Yeah.
And then see what happens.
Yeah. Then I'll go viral, be like, "Look at this idiot."
Right, but that's okay because
I'll sell more books that way probably than I would.
Right. Or if nothing else, you'll get more followers, and then they'll follow all your other quirky, funny tweets and videos, and they'll be like, okay, he's convinced me. I've got to read this book. I've got to see what's going on deeper in his mind.
Yeah. I got to see if this person has an actual adult working brain.
Right. I have to know.
Is there anything that you have done, are doing, will do that you want to talk about, or just anything on your mind right now before we start moving towards the end?
Well, I am working on a couple of books simultaneously. I can't really talk much about them.
You would.
But things are happening. I just don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, and also we're doing a lot of editing at Redisque to get the next round of books out, and there's going to be some really awesome ones coming out. So keep your eyes peeled.
Does Shawn Burgess have anything coming out? Mm-hmm. Yay! He sent me an autographed copy of Tear Collector. It's a good book.
Yes, it is a very good book. And I helped him edit the sequel, which should be coming out very soon. And I know what happens and you don't.
All right. I'm calling Shawn right now.
But yeah, that's one to keep an eye out for. It's if you are a horror / well, because it's sort of YA, but it's sort of not. Like, again, it's a lot of things going on at once. You know, a lot of genres, a lot of possible targets, all in the same type of story. But if you
reading that book actually kind of made me feel a little bit of a kinship to him, because I was feeling like, you know, that's kind of how I feel. It's like, I don't feel like I wrote a book for kids. I feel like kids probably could read it, but
and there
like,
is,
I definitely
there is
didn't read this thinking like, this is not for adults.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of similarities. And I feel the same way with Evie from The Mother We Share. I did not go out to write a YA book. You know, her being 18 fit the story that I had in my head, you know?
It would be strange if she was like 34. Yeah.
Right. So I didn't intend, but of course, you know, with the whole coming of age theme, you're like, well, I guess it kind of does fit more in that than others, but that doesn't mean that's not what you write it for, right? Like, you know, so I don't know. It all depends.
And a book can be light on the sex and the swearing and not necessarily mean it's a kid's book. It just means that that's not what the story is asking for.
Right. And, you know, a lot of people forget too that, you know, kids, I was a big reader as a kid, of course, because I've been a big reader my whole life. And if there was one, if there was one thing I really hated when I was reading books as a kid, was books that kind of talk down to kids. Like, kids go through shit too. They have trauma. They have horrible things that happen. And I mean, not to say you want to rip the blinders off of them and be like, look at this, look at this nightmare I created, you know, but you want to be authentic, you know.
Yeah.
Well, obviously within reason. You don't want to, you know, like I said, you don't want to go too far, but
that's why I loved John Beller's books when I was younger, like House with a Clock in Its Walls, and oh gosh, that was when they made the movie out of, I think, was The House with a Clock in Its Walls. But
and I love Judy Blume. I mean, she wrote kids books, but she, at the time, she was very controversial.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, even John Beller starts his book by basically these women are making fun of this guy that the main character is going to go live with because he's Catholic, and they gamble and drink and swear. Like,
Right.
that is how people talk, but like they wouldn't say it in front of kids, but kids hear that stuff, and that's
Kids hear it all the time, and
Yeah.
they say it all the time. Kids
Yeah.
swear probably more than adults because it's new and it's forbidden and it's exciting. So
Yeah.
they swear every time they can.
And they just really discovered it too, so it's like got that new car smell to it still.
Right. But the funny thing is, though, because kids don't really understand always why the swear is or what, they use it in really hilarious ways, like the
I've
wrong
heard, like, I
ways.
saw kids steal soda one time and they go, "Oh, bitch!" I'm like, "I don't know how to do that."
But yeah, like I love Judy Blume's Forever. My mom would have lost her mind if she knew I had been reading it because it's about a teenage girl falling in love for the first time and losing her virginity.
Hmm.
And so it's at the time it was very graphic. I don't know how, it probably would not be considered so today.
Yeah.
But and then the best part was after all that she goes through with the relationship, like it fails anyway, because that's the most important lesson that you get from that book. Looking back is, hey kids, yeah, you can do all this stuff, but guess what? You're kids, so you're probably gonna fuck it up.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna, there's a reason why people say take your time with stuff like that, because you're gonna almost always pick the wrong person when you're a kid because you just don't know any better.
Even if they are the right, like my wife and I met each other young, but we dated on and off and dated other people and had real world experiences before we finally were like, you know what? You were the one, I think. Let's hook back up again. So just being young, you haven't lived enough yet sometimes.
Right. And maybe you are the right person for each other, but you're not ready yet.
Yeah.
Like you think you're ready. You're not, though, because you still have growing to do as an individual before you can, throw yourself onto someone else, because
Yeah.
they've probably still got stuff to do too.
You know what? I'm gonna stretch that whole thing out and say the same thing to anybody who's writing or doing anything creative that takes time is don't get frustrated when things don't move at the speed you want them to, because if they moved at the speed I wanted them to, this book would have come out a year and a half ago.
Right.
But it wouldn't have had the cover that it has because I met somebody through podcasting after not being able to go, get an agent or whatever. And they made this at an extreme discount compared to what I would have paid somewhere else.
It's not only a gorgeous cover, it really fits the story quite well. I don't know the person who created it, but you did an amazing job. You should be proud of yourself.
Kirk Ross, the host of a podcast called A Talk in the Attic.
Ooh.
He's a very funny guy. He writes little set comedy pieces and then sometimes does YouTube cartoons to them, like really well done ones. And
see, I wish I could draw.
Well, no, it's all graphic design stuff. So he has he's got this like 13-year-old pug, and it escaped and was wandering around Grand Rapids, Michigan for about like 32 hours. And so he wrote a story about what the dog might have done and then how it made its way back home, and then put all these pictures and it made it look like a children's book. But the dog eats mushrooms, gets in a fight with a gang of dogs, wild dogs, and gets his penis cut off.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So you're looking at this thing and it's like do 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 do, and it's like all these like kid book pictures.
It's like Hostel for dogs.
With a happier ending though. He makes it home and yeah.
Oh, good. Good pup.
Yeah. All that was just a big plug for A Talk in the Attic. Thank you for being part of that.
Yes, anytime.
Thank you so much, honestly, both for introducing me to TJ, because he was great to work with, but for your notes, because they were, like I said, they seemed so simple, but when I looked at it and read the book again, I was like, oh, yeah, and was able to make really just a couple quick things. I didn't really have to do a big rewrite or anything, and it kind of all tied together, because I lost sight, especially at the end, of the parts that did get especially confusing.
Yeah.
And then when you're like, I totally don't know what's going on at this part, I was like, oh, yeah. And then I cleaned all that up.
Well, simple and direct is best. I mean, because again, with feedback, you don't want to beat around the bush. Someone's depending on your honesty. They're
Yeah.
depending on your opinion because it's going to help them. And you again, you may have like read something and been like, no, I don't think this is right. I think that the way I did it is right. But the important part is it might have been a trouble issue, but you went back over it. Even if you didn't change it, you still went back over it and
Mhm.
made sure that's exactly what you want to say.
Yeah.
That's important stuff.
Yeah, because I know what I'm saying. I just got to make sure that the reader knows what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure too. I mean, even any feedback you take in, don't just take everyone's feedback and change your story. There's
Yeah.
things that are in there for a reason and they
100%.
represent what you want to say. So don't change everything that someone says is a problem, because you have to also balance that. Just because it's a problem for them, is it really a problem?
Yeah.
Is it like, is it a universal problem, or is it like someone reads your story and goes, God, this sucks. I hate science fiction. Okay, why did you read it then? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think what you said is accurate. I'm not going to listen to it.
Yeah. Like the person on Twitter who I asked a question, would you rather this or that? And then the one person responded, I'd rather not read dumb questions on Twitter. And I'm just like, then
But you
why are you interacting with it then?
Right. If it's dumb, keep scrolling. Do you know how many dumb things I see anytime I'm on Twitter? Do I comment? No, because if it's dumb, it's not even worth my time. And then you get into an internet argument. And who wins an internet argument? Nobody.
I know a lot of writers, and by a lot I say, I know a few writers, but within those few, I've known some that have just completely left Twitter completely altogether.
hmm
And then others who are like, yeah, I have to take breaks because it's too much. Writers going at each other, or people coming at you with negative shit about the stuff that you post or that you've written. Oh,
Right. I mean, I don't get, the internet's always been like kind of like full of schoolyard bullies. So, but the thing is, it's all virtual, and you got to keep that in mind. Like, you hear people say like, "Oh, it was just too toxic. I couldn't handle it." Okay, well, tell them to fuck off. Like, it's the internet. Don't let them push you around like that, because they can't do anything. They can't actually do anything to you.
yeah.
They can't hurt you unless you let them. It's the whole sticks and stones thing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they can try to be like, don't buy this person's book because they're this or that. Well, you're a fucking asshole, so I'm not going to buy your book. How's that?
Yeah.
Defend yourself, but don't let them drag you down, because it's not worth it, because you can't win anyway. You can't win against the Twitter mob. That doesn't mean you shouldn't stand up to them and stand up for yourself, but pick your battles and don't
Yeah.
let it get you down.
Yeah, you don't have to go 26 threads deep on one comment.
Right. And again, to anyone else, if something annoys you, unless it's something, again, that's so earth-shatteringly like crucial that you absolutely feel like you have to say something profound on it, then comment, whatever. It's a free world. But if it's just something like, oh, that person annoys me, why are you wasting your time then? Why are you letting it annoy you?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I thought about when they said, I hate reading these dumb Twitter questions. I thought about, I hate reading these dumb Twitter answers, but instead I just retweeted it and left it by itself.
Oh, you're so clever. You're being sarcastic, but you're still contributing nothing of substance. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you're listening, go fuck yourself. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for listening. I'm glad you're here.
We appreciate everyone who listens, because because otherwise not that we're not having fun just talking to each other, but having an audience is just even that much better, isn't it?
Sure is. Well, so they say. I don't know. I just record these. I record these on a cassette player and play them for myself late at night.
Hey, that's all right.
Yeah.
As long as someone's getting entertained.
I'm going to let you say anything else that you want to say, and then I'll say goodbye to you.
Just this year has been so rough for so many people. Hang in there, keep going. We're only 5 months. We're not even halfway. Just Keep going. You can
The
do
good
this.
weather's almost here.
Yes, you can do this. You can make it. You can do it.
Yeah.
Have faith.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on and hang out for a second after I end this thing. Thank you, Jennifer, Soucy. I was about to say you're the man, but that's not right. You're awesome.
No. Thank you. Thank
You're
you,
awesome.
Chris.
Thank you
You're
for
awesome too.
being part of this whole thing.
My pleasure. And I can't wait for your book to come out. And I can't wait to leave my review.
Yay! 2 stars, no review.
2 stars, no review. Just a gif of a middle finger, like.
All right, folks, that was Jennifer Soucy. I loved talking to her. I'm going to have her on the show a million more times. Don't worry. And check out her stuff. Check out all the other writers in the show notes. And by all means, buy my book. All right, folks. That's all I got for you this time. I'm going to talk to Brandon Scott next time, and that'll wrap up the whole celebration of the Book Switchers series that I got going on here. And then it'll be back to regularly scheduled programming. All right, everybody. Have a good one. Mwah.
Yeah, man. Weird, right?